Now to our big story this morning. People across the United States are continuing to stay home in an effort to flatten the COVID-19 curve. But with some areas starting to reopen, the CDC has released a list of symptoms that we should all be looking out for. And they include chills for an extended amount of time, also muscle pain, headaches, sore throat, and loss of taste or smell. We've heard that one before, but some of these are new. Don't forget about the original symptoms: fever, cough, and shortness of breath. According to the CDC, any of these symptoms may appear 2 to 14 days after being exposed to the virus. Now, right here in Arizona, there are now more than 6,500 confirmed cases of COVID-19. More than 3,300 of those are in Maricopa County alone, and about 275 people have died. But it's not all bad news. These numbers from Johns Hopkins University show more than 860,000 people have recovered from the coronavirus. That's more than 100,000 patients from right here in the United States. And small business owners who missed out on the first round of loans that was under the PPE or the Paycheck Protection Program, they're going to be getting another chance. The original fund was quickly drained by high demand, leaving many owners empty-handed. And a loan program will start accepting applications this morning at 7:30. Rachel?
Well, cases of coronavirus continue to rise on the Navajo Nation. The nation's president tweeted out last night that there are 79 new confirmed cases of the virus. Now, that brings the total number of cases to more than 1,700. These new numbers come as the nation wraps up another 57-hour weekend curfew. Now, the coronavirus outbreak has already claimed the lives of 59 people on the Navajo Nation. That list includes former Miss Western Navajo Valentina Blackhorse. Now, doctors just confirmed that the 28-year-old had the virus a few days ago after she was taking care of her boyfriend, who tested positive for COVID-19. Blackhorse's family says the mother of one had a bright future ahead of her.
She had her whole life ahead of her, and it was cut short due to this pandemic.
Blackhorse won her title back in 2015 and also competed in the Miss Indian World pageant. Ryan?
Such a shame. All right, Rachel, thanks.